For plebs, by plebs, dropping the Bitcoin only signal. Pleb Underground. Welcome everyone to the Pleb Underground.
You've taken an orange pill, central bankers with another hike. You're back, Pleb Underground, Walton, Phil, on the mic. How we doing, Phil?
I love it. I love it. That was great. Fantastic. You're better rhymer than me. Definitely better beats than me. Okay, all right. We're Pleb Underground. This is episode 7, and we are about to take a look at the numbers. Okay, but before we do, Walton, who are these numbers brought to us by?
The numbers, of course, by timechainstats.com. That's timechainstats.com.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 755,387. The Bitcoin price, 18,792. The total public Lightning capacity, 4,817.13. Moscow time, 53:21. And the chain rewrite days, 8/11. It's a good number, 8/11. Those are the stats. Those are the numbers kicking off the show. And we do have Walton. Before we dive into anything, Walton, did you want to comment on the numbers? Was there anything colorful you wanted to add to the numbers?
I mean, it sounds like there's still some cheap sats there. How long will there be cheap sats? No one knows. Keep stacking. Keep stacking.
All right, so he's ready for the hopium. That's what I'm understanding. Walton's ready for some hopium. Okay, but before we dive into some hopium, first let's take a look at some numbers related fun. And when I say numbers related fun, it's all loosely related, right? Because it's all Bitcoin. Anyways, let's take a look here. We've got a tweet from Roger Ver. For the people who don't know who Roger Ver is, yeah, we still have to explain this sometimes. So Roger Ver, used to be called Bitcoin Jesus. He was a great evangelist for Bitcoin. And unfortunately, he attempted to shape a specific narrative for Bitcoin. And when Bitcoiners didn't all hop on the bandwagon, he ended up getting very upset, and him, Jihan Wu, and Craig Wright forked off and made Bitcoin Cash, which is not Bitcoin at all. Anyways, so that's just the very quick. I wish they would fork off a bit more. Sorry?
I wish they would fork off a bit more.
Well, they're true. We're trying to get them to fork off.
Fork right off.
Just fork right up. Get the fork out of here. Okay. Anyways, so let's take a look at this tweet. EVM chains seem to be the future. For the people who don't know what EVM is, he's talking about Ethereum virtual machines. And yeah, that's a load of crap. So here we go. Preston Pish, love his response. Ethereum Cash. Exactly. That is exactly right. And that should tell you everything. That should tell you everything about his support for Ethereum virtual machines.
Phil, what layer is that on the Amazon web services? Can you call it a blockchain, or is it just a distributed data center? What level is it on top of Amazon, essentially?
Look, it's multiple. So first of all, it's like layer 25,000. Okay, no, I'm kidding. But look, it's definitely not the base layer. And even if it was, those data centers are all owned by Amazon. So even though they are in different places, that is not decentralization in any way, shape, or form. That's 100% sure. But it's okay. We all know that Jeff Bezos has a bigger say in Ethereum than people would like to think. Anyways, let's move on to a little bit more of something closer related to the numbers, to the stats. And you know what? Let's read through the story first, and then we'll dive into the commentary. So here we go. I gave up being civil for toxic Bitcoin maximalism years ago. Now, when someone shitposts that Bitcoin is going to zero, I set a 5-year reminder and rub it in their smug faces. This guy was off by 415%. Meanwhile, his native currency lost 17% of its value. Okay, so here we go. This is actually a post written back by Jonathan by Jonathan Levi. Here we go. Hi, Saul. 5 years ago this week, you predicted that Bitcoin would go to zero. At the time, the price of Bitcoin was 3,582.88. And I remember lots of people making fun of me buying Bitcoin at those prices. Anyways, today Bitcoin is down significantly from even 1 week ago. It's only 18,448. This means that rather than a loss of 100% of its value, as you predicted, it actually increased by 415%. Okay, anyways, we're not going to dive into that into his whole message. The point of all this is the low time preference. The point is to zoom out. Okay, and when we do zoom out, Bitcoin makes incredible amount of sense. Okay, it is by far the best, most secured. I hate to say asset because it just puts it into that box, but it is. It is by far, the most secured asset that you can get. So you know what? Let these no coiners, have their time in the sun and let them sit there and freak out being all happy. Look at that. Bitcoin's dead. Listen, Bitcoin has died so many times. I believe it's died more than 400 times now. Anyways, Walton, what are your thoughts on, do you like the style that this guy has? He comes back 5 years later and he shits on you for being wrong.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I mean, I feel like you got to collect those timestamps, and that's a lot of work. You often see GG, tweet stamping, some, seriously left curve takes. I'm sure to pull up at a later date.
I have to be honest. I've tweet stamped a few times myself, and I don't know if I ever got the notification. And do I have to go somewhere specific to get that notification? I always thought it would just kind of pop.
To be honest.
Yeah, me neither.
No idea.
But I've added the stamp to some stupid takes. I'm just waiting for them to. I just assume it's gonna pop back up in my feed or something. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, maybe you're just a boomer, Phil.
You know what? They mistake us Gen Xers for boomers quite often, but we are actually not boomers. We are the first generation to get screwed from the boomers after the boomers. Gen X. All right, you got anything else for the numbers?
I mean, I like 2140. It's a good number. 2140 data, of course, at 2140 data, the producer of timechainstats.com. We love you. Thank you.
Shameless plug for timechainstats.com. Ant is definitely a good dude. Love what he brings to the space. All right. So on that note, we are going to move on to Hopium. The Hopium segment is brought to you by representltd.com. Walton, tell them about Represent.
Whether you're a shitcoiner who needs to repent or you're a Bitcoin pleb, you should represent. You should check out this fresh apparel, very high quality garments. Representltd.com. Phil, you got some Hopium for us?
Shout out to all the plebs that are providing us links and helping us out. Because obviously, we can't be everywhere all the time. So it's fantastic when people shoot us links or tag us in tweets, about some fun information or something that, could be relevant to the show. So shout out to you guys. All right, here we go. Let's dive into it. So we've got the NASDAQ exchange jumping on the quote unquote crypto bandwagon as it released a cryptocurrency custody service aimed at institutional clients. That's right. They are going to stand there and do absolutely nothing for you while they custody your Bitcoin. Pretty much what custodying other people's Bitcoin entails is taking away their ability to be sovereign. That's what custody services are. Anyways, I'm sorry, but I find it so laughable that all these, like the NASDAQ exchange, before we saw Goldman Sachs offering this up to their customers. But anyways, I digress. What
do you think about NYDIG? Like, to me, NYDIG do something similar, right? They custody assets for institutional clients, and we think NYDIG are maybe a positive force. I get that these guys are, it's like more old money tradfi, but I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, not your keys, not your coins. Like, I don't really care about institutions putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. But anyway, let's have a look.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like that's kind of the thing though, right? I mean, in my eyes, like NYDIG, like I don't really care what institution offers custody services. That to me, like they're all the same. The only difference is to your point, these are now tradfi, more and more traditional finance companies that are coming in, and they are offering these services because they're trying to play catch up. Anyways, let's proceed here. You just saw Nasdaq Exchange wants to offer custody services. Now, we've got from this is actually out of the UAE, Royal Family of Dubai company partners with Coin Corner to facilitate Bitcoin transactions in the UAE. Now, for the people who don't know, in the UAE, when you convert your Bitcoin, all of that is not taxable. So
So
they
this is
already
so
have. Sorry,
yeah,
Walter?
they don't have any capital gains. So you have a bunch of crypto whales and degen traders living there because they don't have capital gains. They they have access to cheap migrant workers. So hospitality services are very good quality, and actually not that bad value for money. It's a popular holiday destination for many Europeans. Um, but yeah, it's mainly kind of tourism focused. Like I shared this story with you, Phil, because I don't really think it is huge. Like I think I commented on this post saying, like, asking Gandalf why he thought this was a big deal. And I feel like I got a word salad. To me, this is nothing for Bitcoin. I think it's a big deal for Coin Corner. Coin Corner, in respect to those guys, Danny up on the Isle of Man and his crew. They're expanding into a new market. They're going to be, I'm sure, making some extra money. But I don't see this as a big deal for Bitcoin itself. I've been to Dubai a bunch of times. Before I ever owned Bitcoin, I saw adverts in Dubai on buildings saying that you could buy new properties with Bitcoin. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal. But it's good, really good news for Danny. So yeah, congrats.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like that was the thing. Like when I read this in the group, and by the way, thank you for sharing it. I was like, yeah, this is hopium because again, right? This kind of comes at a time when, Bitcoin's dead, in quotations, Bitcoin died. And so, you see this type of information, which is like, well, look, like Bitcoin's bound to turn around. Look at this great news. This is a giant nothing burger for Bitcoin. And moving on, right? So here we go, right? We've got I think people need to really appreciate when you get to the point in a market, okay, where it doesn't make a difference how much good news comes out. It doesn't make people see the rosy future. And this is where we are in Bitcoin right now. Okay, we're at that point where it doesn't make a difference what good news you throw at the wall, nothing sticks, and zero fucks given. Okay, nobody cares. Anyways, moving on. Here we go. We had this drop on September 21st, 2022. Russian State Department agreed to legalize Bitcoin mining in energy abundant regions. Let them earn money. Chair of Congress Finance Committee. Okay. This is old news. Okay. Let's take a look at this article from February 15th, 2022. Right? So this is back in February. Russian ministry pushes to legalize Bitcoin mining in some areas. Bitcoin mining, which exists in something of a legal gray area, should be recognized as a form of commercial activity and taxed once coins are converted into rubles. To incentivize industry growth, the ministry also seeks to introduce lower electricity rates and tariffs for setting up Bitcoin mining farms in certain areas. Russia's central bank, however, isn't so keen on the idea. It has pushed to have Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies outright banned, citing risks to the financial system and volatility concerns. Ah, that's right. The horrible volatility of Bitcoin. What's interesting is that many people flock to financial markets specifically for volatility because volatility equals opportunity. So it's kind of funny how they portray volatility as terrible when it comes to Bitcoin, right? But great when it comes to the assets that they can control and that they can monitor and monetize, of course. Anyways. Okay, so this was February, right? This was February. This is not old. This is not new news. And now we fast forward to today, right? Fast forward to today. Bank of Russia, Finance Ministry agree on crypto mining regulation. Crypto. February, they're talking about Bitcoin. Now all of a sudden they're crypto washing it. So here we go. The Central Bank of Russia and the Ministry of Finance have adopted a joint position on the regulation of crypto mining. Make no mistake, nobody's mining your shitcoin. They're just talking about
You can't even mine Ethereum anymore, right? So what are they going to mine? Doge is the second highest proof of work coin, right? So what then you're gonna merge mine it with Litecoin? Are you mad?
It's just this is nobody's mining this shit. So at the end of the day, they're saying crypto, but it's all Bitcoin. Anyways, so here we go. The Bitcoin related activity has been expanding in the energy rich nation, both as profitable industry and as a source of additional income for many Russians. People, this is our signal in all of this crap. Aksakov believes that cryptocurrency mining should be allowed only in the regions with abundant energy resources and prohibited in those that experience shortages. Always got to keep some layer of control. The majority of officials in Moscow also share the view that the Russian Federation should exploit its competitive advantages in the field of crypto mining, which were highlighted by the Russian president too. Okay, so, right, we've got the NASDAQ exchange coming to the table. You know, we've got the UAE really, you know, just repeating what everybody already kind of knew. Hey, we accept Bitcoin over here. And then we've got Russia rehashing, essentially, it's rehashing an old piece of news and saying that they're coming closer to that legislation. Now,
so
signal...
what you're saying is it's a story about Russia, but no one's Russian.
It's a story about Russia, but no one's Russian. No, but the whole piece about this is that you can't stop Bitcoin's incentives. So all of this crap, right? All of these stories, they're really nothing. Okay, they're really giant nothing burgers in the grand scheme of things. But what is real is that people are looking, and not only that, but the government of Russia recognizes the opportunity in Bitcoin mining and has to find a way to make it palatable that they're gonna start doing this. Okay, so they have to find a way to go against the mainstream ESG narrative and say, hey, listen, we're not going to let Bitcoin destroy the world. We're going to do this conscientiously. It doesn't make a difference. It's the Bitcoin incentives that matter. And once a human or an organization recognizes what those incentives are, they're going to find a way. They're going to find a way to mine Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin or hold Bitcoin, but find some way to get it. So anyways, to me, those three articles are just kind of hopium. And as I said, no amount of good news in times like this is going to change the needle. So I know that people think that it's just around the corner, Bitcoin 50K, but unfortunately, I just don't see it. The macro picture, yeah, and unfortunately, we are all humans, right? We are all governed in some way by our emotions. The macro picture is kind of telling us that we're in for a bit of, we're in for some bumpy times ahead before the, before the light at the end of the tunnel. Walton, thoughts on the hopium?
I mean, yeah, right now everything's getting tightened except for the belts of, those in the Cantillon class.
Yeah, look, I agree. And not only that, but this week, Jeff Powell, everybody stood around waiting for the old man to come outside and proclaim what the interest rate what the interest rate's going to be. So they raised it by 75 basis points. So that's almost a full percentage point. I think that I don't think that people really appreciate, how big of a move that was. But the reality is it's a drop in the bucket. So, anyways, look, this is where we're at right now.
Yeah, but I think if you go from, I don't know, something like 3% to 6%, as the rates, the yields on US sovereign debt, the proportion of taxpayer money that is essentially going to pay the interest goes from 15% to over 50. So it may not seem like a lot, but the trickle on effects are exponential, because that's how interest works. Yeah. The whole I start saying Western world, but no, basically all countries are in some stage of a debt spiral, and there's this like that Evergrande boat going backwards and forwards in that canal. The policies will just be flipping from easing to tightening, to fight unemployment and inflation respectively, which seems to be the two kind of foci that central banks focus on, because once again this comes back to a kind of idea that Christine Lagarde has referenced, that you shouldn't expect for your savings to be protected. You should be thankful to have a job, essentially. And so these central elites want to focus on making sure all you cattle are getting farmed properly. If you're not working, you can't be taxed.
We keep getting this narrative pushed that savings is some type of a sin. Like having savings is bad. Like you are essentially withholding from the economy. But I'll tell you something, and this is what I've learned. In saving, what happens is, at least in my particular case, you do save. So you do withhold from some smaller purchases, maybe purchases that you don't necessarily need. But what it does is that it shifts your thinking from high time preference, which is immediate instant gratification, to low time preference, where you may end up not spending as much on the day to day, but then you may end up spending more on some big ticket items that add what you believe to be, or what I believe to be, a certain amount of value in our lives. So
right, it's about there's only so much. I'm sorry. It's about deferred gratification.
Yes,
it's not about denying yourself from anything pleasant and being some sort of what's the word? Not pilgrim. I've forgotten that.
Peasant.
No. Puritan. Like, it's not about Puritanism. It's about delayed gratification, building for the future, low time preference. But I do think there's a funny interplay between low time preference and saving, and I'm not sure if actually I do think there's interdependence. Like, the more low time preference you have, the better you can save, and the better you can save, the more low time preference you can be, because you're essentially building up a runway which enables that headspace to think more strategically, to be more forward planning, to be proactive, not reactive.
It's a positive feedback loop. Like, that's that's essentially what it is. Okay, so tinfoil hat time. Okay, I believe that for whatever reason, the powers that be, I shouldn't say for whatever reason, I think it's to mask our losing purchasing power. But I believe that we are incentivized to spend money as quickly as possible, because if there were more savers, more people would realize the erosion of our purchasing power. And as a result,
well, there's that, but also most people are struggling, and so actually they have to spend the money, and they don't even get the chance to save. So actually, yeah, you're right. There's kind of gaslighting or a changing of incentives in the fiat system to drive less saving, and then there's also true now commodity inflation as well as the asset inflation that's been rampant, hitting many people, and their ability to save is becoming less. If people aren't adopting Bitcoin, I don't really see where they're headed.
That's right. This was supposed to be a Hopium segment where we make people hopeful for a Bitcoin future. So you know what? On that note, you want to opt out of this disaster? Start learning about Bitcoin, start stacking Bitcoin, and make sure that you store your Bitcoin yourself. You hold your own keys. You learn about running a node or downloading Bitcoin Core, or you get yourself a hardware wallet. Do a combination of these things. That's why this is the Hopium segment, because
signing device.
Because Bitcoin is the future. Thank you. Signing device. Yes, not hardware wallet. A signing device. Don't worry. Eventually, I'm going to get it right, Walton.
Language is important, but it's we have to recognize like the language you use with certain groups doesn't have to be the same. If you want to call it hardware wallet in the privacy of your home, you're very welcome to. But I do think the signing device describes it more accurately, so I'll keep campaigning for that.
I love it.
That change in the language. Words are important. Speech should be free. This is what Bitcoin's all about. And on the topic of free speech, I'd like to talk about something in Shitcoin Corner if we're ready for it, Phil. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're ready for Shitcoin Corner. All right, we are moving over to the Shitcoin Corner. The Shitcoin Corner is brought to you by Crypto Cloaks. Check them out, cryptocloaks.com. Use the code PLEBUNDERGROUND for 5% off. I've got over here, I actually just got this today. No, I got it this week, a couple of days ago.
Very
this
cool,
is
Phil.
that's right. It is the Space Cat Hodl a Knot ornament. I probably should get a full-sized one. I also got a bunch of these awesome, this is actually my favorite sticker, the Nerd Castle stickers. That's right, from Crypto Cloaks. Check them out,
that could be a helmet for a different head.
Sorry,
that could
Walton?
be a helmet for a different head, maybe, Phil. But no, certainly, yeah. If you head over to Crypto Cloaks, use the code PLEBUNDERGROUND, you get 5% off everything and 50% of the profits of the Hodl helmet go to defendingbtc.com. Of course, we've just wrapped up the trial, and it's going to be a few weeks before we get a verdict. But this is the first story I want to share with you guys today. We're going to have a little look at the final analysis from Arthur Van Pelt. We've had excellent commentary from Mills, from Norbert, but to me, Arthur,
so for the listeners on
summarizes-
audio only, Walton, we're talking about the CSW Hodl a Knot trial, right? That's taking place right now.
Indeed,
Okay.
yes. So this is just finished. The final statements happened yesterday, I believe. And I just want to share a little bit of analysis from this week. CSW had a case against Kleiman in November. Against the estate of Kleiman in November 2021, where they lost despite the reporting from CoinGeek, and the plaintiff were awarded was awarded $143 million in damages, including prejudgment interest. And this was the second time within a year that CSW made an appearance in a public civil trial. But the court case this time against Hodl was different because, firstly, he was taking someone with a pseudonym to court rather than challenging someone whose name they knew throughout. Essentially, what Hodl demanded was that Craig Wright prove that he was Satoshi, even though we all know he's not. This was originally kind of a key challenge, but it did later get decided by the judge that they weren't going to rule on this. Let me show you a couple of parts from this trial. So here I've got a little excerpt from the article. We have Hodl being sued not just in Norway but also in the UK, or rather I think Craig sued him in the UK and then he countersued in Norway. But there are essentially two cases happening in parallel. In both situations, Craig is essentially required to prove that he is Satoshi, because Hodl is using something called the truth defense, arguing essentially that his speech is protected because he is telling the truth. which I think is like seems to be the right way to argue this. Certainly in the UK, where I am, freedom of speech laws aren't what they should be. My personal belief: you should be able to, say what you want, no matter how offensive. And if other people should then obviously then have the ability to ridicule you, or ignore you, or whatever. Speech is not violence. Nonetheless, let's dig on. A notable point here: Hodlnaut using those defense funds efficiently only had 2 lawyers. Meanwhile, Craig has 9 lawyers. So that's 4 from his Scandinavian firm representing him in this case, and also 5 from Ontier, the English lawyers who lost the previous case for him. Or sorry, they won £1 or something for his or did they get sacked? I forget. Anyway, these other lawyers shadowing essentially who were flown in from England because they're researching for the other case that's going to happen. Yeah, so it seems once again Mr. Calvin Ayre is suffering from this gambler's fallacy, where he thinks he's getting close to a win, and so he throws more and more and more money at this. I don't really believe that Calvin believes that CSW is Satoshi. Of course, he's not, but I think Calvin is desperate for this win to try and get some of this money back. The money that CSW has convinced him to put into BSV, but also all of these legal expenses and penalties that keep being awarded to the people that the BSV guys are going against in court. Here we see a tweet from a shitcoiner, apparently something called Avalanche, which sounds really stable. Anyway, he says, over the years, I've developed a good sense for the Craig touch. He brings the IQ down of any group he is in. That's why there isn't a single smart person behind BSV, and that's why the attacks are going to be super dumb. I've spent a bunch of time, probably more time than I would like, with BSV folks on Clubhouse, in Twitter Spaces, and sometimes it feels charitable to entertain some of their questions, but more often than not, they don't actually. There's no thinking going on. Either they're a bit brain dead, or they seem to have some sort of devious plan, whether they're getting paid to shill. But it's often it's very schemy. It's often, hey, can you look at these, or can you talk about these links, and they're sharing kind of falsified or just terrible takes on history and historical documents. Like there's a lack of integrity in their learning process. I don't really understand how anyone can think Craig is Satoshi, but nonetheless he's running around the world doing something that I feel is very much against the spirit of what Satoshi believed in. Satoshi believed in free speech, which is why we have a censorship resistant messaging system that we've never had before. And if Satoshi really wanted to control speech, he wouldn't have invented Bitcoin, and thus I think it's impossible that Craig or anyone related to BSV who's running around the world suing people for their speech could possibly also be Satoshi, someone who championed free speech.
It's really difficult to give a summary of that entire trial so far. So good work picking out the the juicy bits. So this is kind of it's a touchy thing, right? Right now, essentially, Bitcoin's 13 years old, and you've got this person who essentially, by way of the legal system, is trying to coerce certain behavior in his favor. Okay. And it's a lot of what he's done already has been debunked from multiple sources. Okay. In reality. Right. But none of this has gone through the legal system. So my point is that unfortunately, I think that somebody like a CSW, this type of character had to come along. This type of character had to come along and do this. And I think that I think is that Kurt? Yeah, I was gonna say that's Kurt next to him. That is the self-proclaimed Bitcoin historian. But
He looks
I
like
think
a gorilla, right?
Sorry.
No, I said he looks like a gorilla. That's offensive to gorillas, but no, I think he runs I think it's something called Gorilla Pool, which is like, I don't know, some centralized thing.
Wasn't that
We
guy
actually
yesterday?
heard from the guy yesterday. So yeah, so if you're a BSV guy, what you can do is you can buy some really expensive miners. You can ship them to Kurt, and then he'll mine for you. Apparently, so apparently Kurt's doing well, it's like a compass model, but maybe, I mean, it's even worse, right? Because it's BSV. Yeah, BSV without a moral compass. Yeah, just the worst.
Yeah. So my point was that essentially, we needed to have a bad actor like this come along. It doesn't make a difference whether it's him or anything like that. I just look at it like symbolically. CSW could be somebody else. It's completely irrelevant. But I do think in Bitcoin's journey, this character was bound to show up, bound to start doing these types of things. And unfortunately, it's causing a lot of problems and grief, for the people involved. And really, I don't see any benefit for him personally to actually be found as Satoshi, which obviously I know is not going to be the case. Like I don't see how it can be. I mean, for me, I know it's going to sound hypocritical, but if it were to come out some type of verdict that says, oh yeah, he is Satoshi, I'm pretty sure that nobody's going to believe it anyways. It makes no difference because he can't move the coins. So like, you can't move the coins, you can't be Satoshi. I'm really sorry. Like you can't. I know you think you can, but you can't. So I think we had no choice. I think we had no choice but to have a CSW. I think that, that this is going to teach everybody a very valuable lesson. I think that it's also kind of it's also a lesson in the fact that what we write online doesn't disappear. Because as Norbert and Milzenot and Wiz are documenting this every single day on Twitter, that they're talking about certain Bitcoin pleb groups, and they're talking about certain tweets, right? Like, so don't forget, everything that we write and we post it doesn't disappear. It's still there. Anyway, sorry, Walton, continue.
Yeah, so the point that you're making is that what you put out there will be part of history. But the summary that I get from the trial and from Arthur's work is that Craig is constantly trying to make up history, not just erase it. So there's a few points here of kind of that I think summarize it very well. Some patterns of how CSW has been behaving over the years to try and further this claim that he is Satoshi. So the first, not signing a Satoshi related block address or any public Bitcoin address that Craig claims to own and control. Since 2013, when Craig's Bitcoin fraud began in Australia, he'd been repeatedly requested to sign a plethora of addresses by the ATO, which I believe is the Australian Tax Office. But no such request, nor any attempt by Craig to display a credible, publicly verifiable signature in later years has resulted in an acceptable result. So, yeah, we've not seen him sign. The second point, Craig has been creating a lot of Satoshi counterfeits. So he's been faking history as well as making it up. So he's not shying away from using. It's weird. So he's submitting in a bunch of different trials forged evidence. And we say a lot, it's an understatement. There's literally hundreds of them that are getting identified as forgeries. Hodl or Not trial showed a few more. And then finally, we have, and I think this is probably the most significant one, in part because this is actually where shitcoiners excel, and that's in manipulating people. So we have Craig deploying eyewitnesses, right? People that he's actually managed to deceive over the years. So Calvin, I'm sure is one of them. Obviously not in the trial here, but I'm sure there's a number of these people, have vested interests in Craig doing well. How, who knows? But again, behavior is driven by incentives. Why would people want to go to court and help these guys unless they're holding something over them or they have some sort of financial incentive? Doesn't make sense to me. So we have all of these eyewitnesses turning up in court, but they're only able to recollect that Craig's been Satoshi since 2014, and not 6 years before when Bitcoin, 5 years before when Bitcoin was created. It doesn't look good, does it, Phil?
How could they? It's like, how could they remember it if it's not true? He only started pretending then. So obviously he didn't exist before that. And okay, so it's interesting that you bring that up about the eyewitnesses and only remembering this stuff since 2014. So when I first started to really dive down the Bitcoin only rabbit hole, like one of the things I had to debunk for myself was the stuff like BCH and BSV. Okay. And not debunk in the sense of like, hey, those could be the real Bitcoin. No, I debunk them in the sense of like, okay, what makes them a shitcoin? like besides the fact that they are not Bitcoin. But essentially started digging through the bitcointalk.org threads from Satoshi. And it's extremely difficult to reconcile the person that was responding in those emails, okay, and in those threads with the human being that CSW, the human being that CSW portrays. Like I just don't see like, and I saw that there was some comment that apparently he's autistic. So I mean, I personally don't see what that has anything to do with any of that. I've known quite a few autists.
Send him to the council. Send him to the council.
Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
judge. But I think fucking bullshit is what I'm calling. Like,
thank you.
Like, I'm sorry. If you're autistic, you believe in fairness, and what they're doing is not even close to fair.
It just has, so this is the point, right? It's neither here nor there. It doesn't make a difference. So what? He's autistic, so that means that, that means everything that he wrote was written by a different person and he became somebody completely, like, no, that's not how this works. Okay. That's not how autism works. Like, Walton, you can call me on it, like I just don't see that that's how it works. So for me, I see a bunch of,
he's pompous. Like, you can't, it's really, really difficult for autistic people to be pompous because they don't have it just doesn't happen, right? That you've seen the meme where it's the guy standing in the corner they don't know about, right? That's the autistic guy. Yeah, he's not in the middle of it, just like this. Well, yes, when I read in the white paper. I mean when I wrote it. Like, come on, no.
That video from Yellow, by the way, is so good.
Fucking love it. Yellow's the best.
Did you read it or did you write it?
Oh no! Oh no!
Okay, we're gonna have to put a link to that in the show notes so that people know what we're talking about. I do have that saved, so don't worry. We'll add that in there. But yeah, look, this trial, we have to give definitely got to give a special shout out to Hodl or Not, because he is the one that is absolutely dealing with all of this crap. We just get to sit here and make commentary on this, but this is genuinely taking his toll, on his life, mentally and everything like that, and that's just not fair. Craig, CSW, BSV, whatever it is, chose to aim at him because of his perceived popularity. But look, at the end of the day, it kind of put up a flag to let everybody know, look, if you're gonna go out and say something, you might have to really stand behind what you've said. And I think that, like, good or bad, like, Hodlnaut is going all the way to the end with this. And you know what? I think that I think that history is going to look kindly. I think that history is going to look kindly upon Hodlnaut. I can't say the same though. I can't say the same for the BSV camp.
Right. This week in Shitcoin Corner, I've chosen to focus on I guess two areas that I think are part of kind of attacks on Bitcoin. Right. People say everything's good for Bitcoin. And actually, me and Phil are going to do a little special, maybe in a week or two, about whether everything's good for Bitcoin or not. But I see certainly two attacks here. Right. The BSV guys are attacking Bitcoiners, attacking their free speech. And trying to use the fiat system against Bitcoiners in terms of the legal system, but what we also see is people like Sam Bankman-Fried trying to leverage the political system and what's the term and I guess and the media, right, against Bitcoin, trying to fight proof of work,
coerce,
and I feel like also buying political support, and also probably also influencing the media, I think, in more surreptitious ways. You saw the recent kind of crypto collapse, and it seemed as if the media were acting like Sam was this lender of last resort, right? And this is the story I want to get into. So a few tweets here from Otaru. Sam Bankman-Fried was styled by the media as this lender of last resort, but was he really, or was this part of a game of optics that he was playing? He's not a stupid guy, and I think this is another one of those. So it actually seems right that he's bailing himself out more than anyone else. Let's have a little look at what's happened here. So some context for you. We saw just a quarter ago, multi-billion-dollar companies were losing up to 99% of their value in a few weeks. Terra Luna, you see Do Kwon, currently on, I believe, on the run from Korean authorities at present. BlockFi, we saw them get scooped up, and of course, certain investors in BlockFi in previous rounds, potentially not doing very well on their BlockFi investment. Sorry, Nick, not sorry. Then we saw
will continue to rise.
Yeah. Starfish will continue to rise in jail, maybe. Don't drop the soap. Celsius, 3 Arrows, Voyager, with all of these shitcoin funds seemingly vaporizing. Sam Bankman-Fried, the fat white knight, ready to save them all. Apparently he was going to bail out BlockFi for $400 million, Voyager for $500 million, repay hundreds of millions to Celsius users, and millions to Skybridge. Now, how much of this is actually true? So apparently he's estimated to be worth $11 billion, quite a lot of money for someone in their 20s. His trading firm, Alameda, made $1 billion in profit last year. I have no proof of this, but from what I hear, Alameda maybe actually have access to FTX's order books and be betting against FTX customers. Not the most ethical of practices, but it does make you very rich, and so now you're able to bail out companies, and journalists love a hero, right? Even if they're not a real hero, it generates some clicks, it generates some ad money. Let's have a look at these bailouts, right? BlockFi. Had a liquidity crisis. Many people expected it to happen at some point. BlockFi seemed to have had $250 million offered by FTX. Some were saying it was going to be $400 million. But what actually happened? No. This was a way for Sam to get a foot in the door and to play some funny games and acquire BlockFi for so much less than it was previously supposedly worth. 96% lower than the headline figure and 99.6% discount on their previous valuation. You can see they had a huge drop right in their down round. I believe Castle Island Ventures, I think, invested in the previous round. They then I believe didn't get much of that back. So guess you got to dye your hair and go mental or something. But hey, you do what you want to do, Nick. But SBF, running around, playing with these other companies, acquiring these other companies. How much did he actually put in? Nothing. It was bought with debt, not equity. There were a number of other bailouts. What happened with these? So $500 million to Voyager. Oh, Sam spent nothing and backed out of it. Okay. And then, wait a second.
Matter.
Voyager's largest unsecured creditor is Alameda Research. Okay. So the companies. So actually, he's lending to these companies and then buying them when they get wrecked and not paying anything. So is Sam is he like a loan shark for these crypto funds? Like what I mean, he's a bit fat for a shark. It doesn't I mean, he's got sharp teeth. What do you think, Phil?
Okay. So this is my takeaway on this. It doesn't make a difference that he backed out of all of that. It doesn't make a difference that he never ended up spending a penny or fixing anything, because all that matters was the initial news, right? The initial news that the idea, right? Like, because again, like people, it's funny. Like a lot of times, we see stuff like this happen and we think it's like very specific to this person, right? This person, Sam. But what people don't realize is you got to zoom out and look at it like a story, right? We need a character that is believable, that can step into this role where people and the media specifically will buy it up. And that's exactly what they found, right? He's got an exchange. He's got this research arm that also invests, in VCs. He comes across as saying the right things, that he's going to, he's got a plan. He can bail these people out. He can fix this. So it all becomes a really great story. It's completely irrelevant that none of that shit got done. It's completely irrelevant. So don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, a lot of Bitcoiners, we kind of told you so. We kind of told you to stay away from, huh?
He's playing politics, right?
Exactly. That's all it is.
What you want to do is you want to show yourself to be the the kind of the charitable person of the industry, whilst paying for some political campaigns. So you've got some optics to go with the bribery. Sam is a very clever man, guys. I've said this before. Do not underestimate Sam Bankman-Fried. He's playing, and this comes back to the thing about saving, or rather, if you have some wealth, you have some runway, it enables greater, more strategic thinking, whether that be for the good or not, Phil. And I think in the long term, do we see essentially shitcoiners trying to kind of just take as much fiat wealth as they can from degenerates, and they don't really care if Bitcoin does well or not, because they can just play the same fiat games, right? Gain dollars, buy politicians, create security around income, pump your bags. It's sad, isn't it? Like Bitcoin is meant to be. I don't like saying it's for everyone, right? I think Bitcoin's for anyone, but not everyone, right? Anyone can do something. Is it suitable for everyone to use it at all levels today? Are people ready mentally to use Bitcoin? Different people are at different stages, but these shitcoiners, they're wanting to control narratives, they're wanting to control behavior, they're wanting to harvest your time and energy, just like the fiat overlords of the past few decades. So don't trust them. Fuck shitcoins. Buy Bitcoin. Stop being nihilistic. Have some hope.
Very well said. Very well said. All right. You have. Is there anything else for the Shitcoin Corner, or are we wrapping that up?
I mean, I already said fuck shitcoins, right, Phil? So...
Oh, yeah, you did. Man, you're right. You did say fuck shitcoins. All right. So look, everybody, this was our episode today. Don't forget to smash the likes and subscribe. Don't forget to check us out. We've got awesome daily pleb content on the plebunderground.com. Sign up to our newsletter. Don't forget, Walton runs the Bitcoin Council of Autism Spaces, so look for them on Twitter.
We've been doing some recently with the Chateau. They've been very entertaining. We've been doing some long spaces. The Chateau of Autism. We have a mashup. But yeah, guys, we've been playing around with the sound. Please let us know. This was Pleb Underground. We'll see you next week.
Awesome. Don't forget to support the Space Cat at defendingbtc.com. And of course, don't forget to check us out on our audio-only platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. And if you want to stream us sats, check us out on fountain.fm. You could stream us sats through Breeze.